when you say India staying neutral, in a sense they are, because their foreign policy is basically like, we're going to do what's good for us, and, India works in its own self-interest. There's a very good clip I want to play you from India's foreign minister, and take a look at what he has to say about buying oil from Russia, because he was next to Liz Truss, who's the UK foreign minister.
I think it's very important, though, that we respect other countries' decisions about the issues that they face. India is a sovereign nation. I'm not going to tell India what to do.
I was just
how kind of you. Basically colonized India for 400 years. We're not going to tell you what to do. How generous of you. Thank you for clarifying. God. I'm British and I'm offended by that. What an embarrassment.
I was just reading a report today that in the month of March, Europe has bought, I think, 15% more oil and gas from Russia than it did the month before. If you look at the major buyers of oil and gas from Russia, I think you'd find most of them are in Europe.
Yep, there you go. He nailed it. That's the truth. They want to come and lecture India about buying, energy, buying crude from the Russians. Meanwhile, Europe is still buying it. Even the Americans. Let me show you this. This is very interesting. Their headline reads, U.S. oil imports from Russia increased by 43%. And this was released on 4th of April. So according to the Deputy Secretary of the Russian Security Council, Mikhail Popov, he said that U.S. increased its imports of Russian oil by 43% in the last week, totaling 100,000 barrels a day. Right? And he said that the U.S. forced Europeans to introduce anti-Russian sanctions, while not only continuing to import oil from Russia, but increasing the volume of oil deliveries for the past week by 43%, up to 100,000 barrels per day. The Deputy Secretary also detailed that Washington imported fertilizers from Russia while listing them as essential goods. Again, Russia it supplies a lot of fertilizer, okay? And I mean, you can't live without that, right? That's just not going to work. Russia's literally the world's #1 exporter of nitrogen fertilizer, #2 in phosphorus and potassium. It is effectively an essential. So the article continues. Last month, the U.S. announced a ban on Russian oil, natural gas, and coal imports as a response to the Russian operation in Ukraine. Now, of course, they talk about sanctions backfiring on Europe. That's something else, but that I've talked about, of course. But I just think it's ironic that they want to lecture countries in the global south, the emerging economies, for not sanctioning Russia and continuing to trade as normal. Sorry to tell you, but again, this idea that India and Pakistan and everybody who's not in the West basically should just bend over backwards and comply with whatever the State Department says is ridiculous. It's a colonial mentality, and it doesn't work. If you look at a map of countries that have sanctioned Russia, it's really funny because you'll see very clearly what's going on. Here's a map for you. So the countries in green are countries that have sanctioned Russia, and see, look, here's the legend down below, right? So, don't you think it's funny how they colored Russia in blue to make it look like it's more countries than it is? It's really just the global north, right? Japan, Australia, Western Europe, North America. That's it. And they just colored they colored Russia in blue just to make it look like it's not so empty. Well, why would you color Russia in blue? We know what color Russia is. That's literally the only thing in the legend. Look at the legend. It literally just says Russia. Yes, thank you very much. I know where Russia is. This really shows you how desperate they are to control the narrative to make it look like, oh, the world is united against Russia. No, they're not. They're obviously not. The most populous countries on earth are not. You're going to see very interesting developments now when it comes to ruble payments for gas, because Hungary said, yes, I've told you this already. But this new article from Politico, they talk about, the internal struggle between the EU countries, EU member states on what to do, because they have to open these accounts in Gazprom Bank that are in rubles. So they'll have one in euros and one in rubles, right? And Habeck, who's the economy minister in Germany, he says there's an expert opinion that says that the second bank account, the one in rubles, would be a way of circumventing the sanctions. We cannot allow any circumvention of the sanctions through back doors. Well, it's not really a circumvention of sanctions at all, because logically, of course, Russia's trying to circumvent the sanctions, but on paper, what the EU has sanctioned Russia with is non-energy related things, and this is energy related. So how is it a breach of sanctions? They're just upset because it's actually working and shoring up the value of the ruble, and the whole point was let's break Russia's knees, let's cripple its currency and economy, and in that sense, it's a circumvention of the sanctions. But on paper, it isn't really, because you didn't sanction energy related banks. So how does it break sanctions? It doesn't. And then of course they talk about hard currency. And I mean, you have to see it from the point of view of the Russians, because you're giving them euros, you're giving them dollars that they can't use. So it's like as if the Russians are giving you gas for free. Do you take them for fools? No one would do that. It's ridiculous. In terms of contracts, you remember they were saying these contracts are being breached. 97% of EU gas contracts with Russia specify payments in euros or dollars. It's not a breach of contract, because if you're a gas buyer, you can still send euros. It's just that Russia's going to convert them for you to rubles in an account that's in your name, and then pay for the gas that way. So it's still in your name, and you're still sending euros. It's cheeky, and it works. Netherlands on Thursday advised companies not to sign new contracts with Gazprom. That's expected. So they informed Dutch companies that the Commission and Council assessment concluded that the ruble payment system is illegal, and therefore companies cannot sign contracts with Gazprom. But by doing so, the article continues, The Hague risks Putin cutting off gas supplies. I think that's a typo there. The Hague risks Putin cutting off gas supplies, because the Netherlands has plans to double the import capacity of LNG, and launched a campaign encouraging businesses, government buildings, and households to reduce energy consumption. That's really funny. You know why? It reminds me of something I saw in Germany, where they're trying to launch some similar campaign. Look at this from the BBC. So the campaign is Save Energy and Annoy Putin, Germans told. German Vice Chancellor, again, it's Habeck, who's Minister of Economy, has called on the public to cut energy use and stop using cars to help wean their country off Russian oil and gas. If you can take the train or bike over Easter, that's good too. It's easy on the wallet and annoys Putin. Yeah, let me explain something to you. That's not how this works. When you don't have fuel, when you don't have oil derivatives coming in the country, it's not just about, I can't drive my car. There's inflation. Food becomes more expensive. Hospitals cannot run at full capacity. The price of basic commodities, basic necessities go up. Everything is affected by this. Agriculture, industry, service sector. This is stupid. I cannot believe this guy's the minister of economy in Germany, and he thinks like this. You're not going to annoy Putin. Putin is still getting paid. As a matter of fact, he's getting paid more because the gas price has been driven up by Western sanctions. But this idea that we can we can take a bicycle and that's going to annoy the Kremlin. God, you're so dumb. You are going to be really annoyed when you go to the supermarket and see that Aldi, as they have done last week, have raised the prices on over 100 food items, right? Butter, sausages, meat, these are essentials. They've raised some food items by 20 to 50%. Who's being annoyed? Is it the Kremlin or you? Now, don't get me wrong. The Russians are suffering from sanctions too, obviously, and it's not the Kremlin. So even in the case of the blowback here, it's also regular, civilians. It's the average Hans, average Johann, or as they say in German, Max Muster. I don't see how that's going to help. This is very childish and dumb. This is what you become when you're so subservient to the United States. You start trying to rationalize things like cutting off Nord Stream 2 and giving it to the Russians. No. If they don't pay up, that's really going to tell you how dumb they are, because Germany needs the gas. I think about 40% of Europe's gas comes from Russia, but when it comes to Germany, 40% of German gas comes from Russia, and a quarter of oil comes from Russia. So again, this is going to affect everything. And Austria has it worse, right? So next door, 80% of Austrian gas comes from Russia. Austria has the lowest gas reserves in Europe. So it's no wonder you had the Austrian chancellor visiting the Kremlin the other day. Of course, it's under the guise of, we're going to try and broker some sort of thing. And Austria is a neutral country, sure. But they really don't have any choice. They'd be screwed the hardest and screwed first if they don't pay. And the smart thing to do is to just pay, because you don't have to change the currency. The Russians are they will sell the rubles for you in your name. I think it's smart, and it's a win-win for everybody, because it's not a breach of contract. You get to still, you can still send euros, and the Russians get to shore up their currency. Anything else is destructive, honestly. Austrian leader says Putin told him gas payments in euros can continue. On April 14th, as I told you, the Austrian chancellor, hold on. I think you should be able to see the full article now. Yeah, so Karl Nehammer, he went to Moscow and met with him, and they discussed Austria's gas supply and that it can continue to be paid for in euros. And this is exactly what I was talking about, that it really doesn't change anything for the Europeans, because they're not the ones who have to go buy the rubles. Russia's going to do that for them through Gazprom Bank. The trick is that there are two accounts, and they're both in the buyer's name. So it's as if, Austria was buying rubles and then paying for the gas in rubles. I mean, they are. It will be that way on paper. Here we go. Just like what I said, Austria gets 80% of its natural gas from Russia, and opposes an immediate European Union gas embargo. Yeah, we don't really need to have this in here. I think that kind of says it all. No, I don't think this is correct. They say at the same time, Russia appears to have opened a door to continued payment in euros. Again, it's on the channel. I explained very clearly how this payment mechanism works in rubles. It's on the channel. It's literally called how to pay for gas in rubles or something like that. I broke it down very simply because they don't have a graphic or infographic to walk you through it. I do. I made one and I showed it to you.